Let's start with something simple. Intuition arrives as personal revelation. It arrives as insight, epiphany, or a flash of inspiration. But here's the part that most people will miss. In order to connect with intuition, you have to admit temporary ignorance. You're basically saying, I don't know the answer to this thing, and I'm willing to ask beyond my current perceptual state. And instead of just pushing through and grinding my brain to dust, I'm going to pause and I'm going to reflect. Because grinding and pressing your mind is not strategic, it's overthinking and doubt in disguise. And it's this kind of mental pressure that uses up valuable energy in your brain. And it's going to keep you looping through what you already know and not getting any new answers. Intuition requires one very important thing, and that is admitting you don't know. Because intuition is about accessing information beyond your current understanding and outside your current mental constructs. Intuition is like intellectual humility. And for the people that are overly attached to being right all the time, they're going to resist their intuition because they're not going to allow temporary ignorance. They're not going to open up their mind to new data that didn't originate inside their brain. So this is what I call a fixed, rigid, and insular mindset. And it's that type of mindset that has people repeating the same loops, the same thoughts, the same patterns and emotional ruts over and over and over again, and their life does not move as smoothly as they'd like. And it's not because they're bad thinkers either. They're just resistant to saying something like, maybe I just don't know. Intuition requires emotional maturity too, because it's that maturity that allows us to befriend uncertainty just for a second, to let go of control and the compulsive need to push everything forward from a very narrow point of view. And most people who avoid intuition and kind of poo-poo it, they don't like uncertainty. They would rather the certainty that they have, even if it's incorrect, which is really interesting. So when we do this and we pressure our brains for over-processed solutions over and over and over again, this is not strategic. And a lot of people think that if they pause or stop pushing something forward, it's going to fall apart. So if they're caught in overthinking, underfeeling, and emotional suppression, that is a recipe for burnout. But here's how we shift it. The moment you allow yourself not to know your next best move, you're creating space for your intuition to speak to you. Your need for control relaxes and your nervous system unclenches. And that striving brain of yours gets a break so something new can enter. And that something often feels this big at first. It's a flash or a tiny suggestion that says, here's your next best step. But this is where it gets really tricky. Most people are going to ignore that step because the answer seems way too simple. They go, it can't be it. It has to be more complicated than that. Ask the question, like, why do we always try to complicate things? But remember this, the closer you get to truth, the more simple things become. So when you're learning to trust your intuition, here's like one thing I want you to remember. Be willing to admit you don't know your next best step, and be willing to ask for guidance. Be open to simple answers and just for a moment, a bit of intellectual humility. And the more that you practice this, the more sharp your mind becomes. Why? Because the brain works best with less thought, not more. And if the answer, your next best step, does not come right away, that's okay. It is not a sign of failure. It's just the process of your mind letting go. So here's what you do in that space. Go do something else. Engage fully in an activity that has nothing to do with the problem you're trying to solve. After all, Einstein played the violin when he was stuck on a problem, and he actually solved the theory of relativity while hanging out, chilling on a train. Pressure is not going to make answers arrive faster in your brain. You will achieve your next best step, and when it arrives, it will be perfectly on time. Will you follow it, even if it defies logic? Will you be willing to say to yourself in that moment, I don't know why that's the next best step, but I'm willing to follow it in the spirit of adventure because intuition, I trust you and I'm listening. And even if you don't follow that next best step, it's okay. You didn't fail. You just didn't act on what was revealed to you. Be gentle with yourself during this time because if you don't act on what's revealed to you, you might get frustrated and you might beat up your brain and talk meanly to yourself, which I don't recommend. So just remember that you and your intuition is a partnership. It has to build, you have to build trust in it. And that trust arrives by following the next best step as it's presented to you when you're in a relaxed state. Remember, you do not need all the answers at once. You just need your next best step. So give yourself a little bit of space and a lot of grace to hear it. And when you try this, I hope you'll come back here and put in the comments how the process of revelation and your intuitive connections working for you. Thanks.